Good morning, all of you. This is Shri Iqbal, Assistant Faculty of Black Diamond Public School, Gadi Katana, now representing you all for the in-house training for a very remarkable and important topic of the day, that is teaching approaches and strategies for science. Hope you will enjoy the session and you will be able to learn a lot after this session. Just we have studied about the inquiry approach. It is very effective approach because inquiry teaching motivates students to undertake learning activities through their own learning styles. This approach is intended to satisfy the innate curiosity of the young. They continue to be inquisitive and sensitive about the things and happenings in their surroundings. The habitual use of the scientific processes such as classifying, measuring, analyzing, predicting and others, which are so much important in weighing the evidences, enhances the critical thinking ability and so on. Experience gained in successful inquiries develop a creative way of seeking knowledge and information rather than follow traditional modes or any other views. As we know that science is the study of scientific approaches. It does not simply sit down and pray for things to happen, but seeks to find out why things happen. It experiments and tries again and again, and sometimes fails and sometimes succeeds, and so be it. It adds to human knowledge. This modern world of ours is very different from ancient world or the Middle Ages. This great difference is largely due to science. As very rightly quoted, that every day is different from the earlier days, and this is largely due to the contribution of science in our life. We can't live happy life without science. The science has become integral part of our life. Science has also influenced educational enterprises, and hence it has also become the integral part of our educational system. Learning of science has become unavoidable part of general education. So, objectives and organizations that it applies an integrated approach. The term science and general science are just used synonymously. As the great scientist Albert Einstein defines science as an attempt to make the chaotic diversity of our sense experience correspond to logically uniform systems of science. Science is an accumulated and systemized learning, in general usage restricted to the natural phenomenon. Science is an endless series of empirical observations which result in the formation of concepts and theories, with both concepts and theories being subject of modification in the light of further empirical observation. Therefore, we can simply sum up that science is both a body of knowledge and the process of acquiring and retaining knowledge or refining the knowledge. So basically we have studied that science is a study of natural phenomenon. It is an organized and systematic learning. It is a body of cumulative and ordered observation. It is the knowledge based on observations, experiments, and science is a process as well as a product. So when we talk about the importance of general science, the modern civilization is a scientific civilization. In this age, the modern society is completely drawn into the scientific environment. Today, Science has become an integral part of our life and living. Now we cannot think of world without science. The importance of general science in day-to-day life differs from their objectives and their uses. The science has revolutionized the agricultural sector. The new scientific understanding of the nature of living creatures, both plants and animals, had led in a spectacular improvement in agricultural technology. Science has brought revolution in mechanism of agriculture to which the farmers have really accepted. The effective use of fertilizers, pesticides, modern techniques, and the method of cultivation, improved variety of seeds are few examples of science in the agricultural sector. Science gives information about insect control, cattle disease, use of manures, and so on. Science has also helped us in improving our health. The old prejudice of vaccination has broken down with the result that smallpox has been practically wiped out. Science has proved to be a savior to mankind where contagious diseases and epidemics have been prevented by scientific techniques. Due to the contribution of science, the average life of an individual is increased from 32 years in 1950 to over 55 years in India. The ways and processes of science and industry have been changed due to impact of science. Industries have become advanced due to the advancement of science. For example, industries such as textile, steel, electronic, drugs, small scale etc. have been advanced due to the advancement of science. The wealth and prosperity of a nation depends on the effective utilization of its human and material resources through industrialization. The use of human material for industrialization depicts its education in science. Facilities for study of engineering and medicine in different branches have been increased due to development of science. As a result, various new branches in different disciplines have emerged. Science has also some other areas where they are benefited, such as transportation, banking, communication, entertainment, digitalization, media, etc. Now, when we talk about the place in school curriculum, science is an important subject in school curriculum because maths future depends to a large extent on scientific advancement and development of productive activity. Hence, there is a great need to teach science in school curriculum. Kothari Commission strongly emphasizes that we lay great emphasis on making science an important element in school education. We therefore recommended that science and mathematics should be taught on compulsory basis to all pupils as a part of general education during first 10 years of schooling. In addition, there should be provision of special courses in these subjects in the secondary stage for students more than average ability. Science and technology must become essential components in any educational enterprise that must be incorporated into all educational activity intended for children, young people and adults. Science has now become a compulsory subject in the school curriculum because of the various positive and remarkable effects. The science has introduced to us new ways of thinking and analyzing. Scientific knowledge helps us to sharpen our intellect and promotes intellectual honesty. The science education can develop the positive attitudes like open-mindedness and positiveness, which is helpful individual to understand, evaluate and solve many problems that is faced in our life. The second one is vocational value. In present age, all the vocation need the knowledge of science. Moreover, there are large number of vocations for which study of science is compulsory requirements. such as medicine, engineering, computers, paramedicals, agriculture, etc. The study of science at a school level is the basis of many vocations and other productive activities in the later life of the student. Knowledge of science develops in man a passion for truth, and thus he has a passion for beauty. Science is basically unfolding of the mysteries of nature and nature of stored house of all the beautiful things. Thus, teaching of science is necessary for developing aesthetic sense in an individual. Science has played an important role in determining the culture and civilization of a country from time to time. Therefore, in short, we can say that science has helped us to overcome the problem of passing our leisure time and to make best use of it. Science has provided us with large number of devices such as radio, television, cinema, etc., which are the source of entertainment to all of us. They also serve as the source of knowledge and are used to spread of mass education and making the community aware of dangers of various ills. Science has also provided a large number of hobbies which we can pursue in our leisure time. For example, photography. Thus, from the above discussion, it is very evident that a subject which is so valuable and psychological best so closely connected with our daily life is justified to be included in the curriculum, and hence science education is valuable in students' individual life as also his life in society. Arriving at a conclusion or generalization after their own investigations, students develop a feeling of self-confidence and a deep sense of responsibility for their own learning. An inquiry approach can be labeled as discovery approach, where the students are led to figure out for themselves how to attack the problem, questions to arrive at the conclusion considering their own discovery. Their learning becomes so meaningful and lasting. The students are observed to be genuinely and interested since the procedure is being employed are of their own choices. They become more careful and persistent in achieving desired end. Being honest and objective in their information search, they become skilled in problem solving and decision making. Now we will discuss some important pointers that what should be the rules and how teaching methodologies in schools must be implemented. So there are some important pointers that the teacher must be good in asking questions that are of the what, why, how. Because as we all know that science is the study of scientific phenomena. It is not merely dedicated over the theories and practicals. So in short, we can say that science is the study of why and how. In our daily life, several things happen around us. So we must have to analyze the causes of the things. So the students learn to ask equally provoking questions so that it improves their questioning ability, techniques, and the reasoning ability of the students. Next one is that the teacher and the students must be consistent in following the steps in the procedure as well as in applying appropriate investigative processes to ensure the attainment of the right conclusion or decision. There should be minimum coaching in order for the students to originate their own way of inferring, hypothesizing and interpreting the data. Flexibility in planning and implementing their chosen methodology can further develop their creative thinking ability. Therefore, at last, I just want to say that a conducive learning environment must be provided to allow freedom of movement and access to needed equipment and industrial materials in order not to disrupt the order of the procedure. Recognition of successful classroom activities that are inquiry oriented can strengthen the feeling and attitude students have developed. Hence, all learning will be inner directed and intrinsically motivated. The teacher should act as a guide, facilitator, and motivator rather than the usual authority who not only determines the material to be learned but also dictates on how it should be learned. Inquiry activities should not be hampered by textbook type verifications nor by the teacher directed procedures. Their skills in employing innovative methodologies will be reinforced. At the end of the activity, teachers may ask the students to evaluate their own performance in order for them to know their success or failure. In this way, they experience joy, zeal, happiness in being able to accomplish much for the day or in undertaking their own solution for any difficult step in the procedure. Next is problem solving. So the various steps that must be included in problem solving are sensing and defining the problems clearly. The problems must be defined, must be sensed clearly to shortcome it. Next, formulating a tentative guess termed as hypothesis. Hypothesis is the most creative phenomena that occurs in the methodology of science. Choosing and testing the likely hypothesis by employing some appropriate science processes and procedures. Organizing, interpreting and evaluating the collected data. And next is formulating conclusions. The pupils studying general science should acquire knowledge of the fundamentals of science useful to us in our everyday life. They should develop the ability to apply the knowledge in our daily life. They should acquire experimental skills such as handling apparatus and instruments, arranging apparatus for an experiment, preserving apparatus, chemicals, specimens, models, etc. They should acquire constructive skills such as improving simple instruments and appliances, repairing certain instruments and appliances of the everyday life. They should also develop drawing skills such as drawing and sketching certain objects, instruments, apparatus, etc. Photography in certain objects of specimen. They should be able to locate reliable and recent information from the appropriate sources. Specific objectives are related to a particular topic in a particular period of time. These objectives can be further divided into several categories like knowledge, understanding, application, skill, etc. The knowledge is that the pupil acquires knowledge of terms, concepts, symbols, definitions, principles, processes and formula of science. Specification is that how to demonstrate the achievement of the above objectives the pupil recalls or reproduces or recognizes. The pupil understands the terms, concepts, symbols, definitions, principles, processes, formulae, reaction, mechanism, etc. The various specifications that must be demonstrated for the achievement of the observations of the pupil are illustrations, comparisons, discriminations, classifications, identification, estimations, interpretation and verification. It is important that the objectives are determined before teaching starts. If these objectives are not clear enough, the science teacher may be deviated from the path. Teacher will not be sure what supposed to teach and why it is to be taught, how it is to be taught. Hence, it is very essential for a science teacher to predetermine the objective of science. The effectiveness. The students develop the skill and employing the science processes such as observation, measurement, analyzing and interpreting the data. Such abilities become part of the natural and the sensitive responses to day-to-day questions, problems, analyzing etc. They are internalized and are carried to the adulthood. The strategies that promote a systematic and orderly way of following a procedure similar to the 5 steps that is enumerated in various lessons. Failure in one can lead to questionable conclusion. On the other hand, a satisfactory conclusion can strengthen in their resolving the problems, performing all the steps with utmost care and confidence. As a teaching methodology, it guarantees the development of higher order thinking skills such as inferential, critical and creative thinking skills. The investigative and inclusive nature of the learning activities cultivate curiosity, objectivity and open-mindedness. The attitude that must be installed is at a young age. With the continued experience of success, they became adopted at wise decisions, making and independent problem solving. The students become responsible, resourceful, persistent in pursuing the lessons, objectives and in the end their goals in life is decided. Now we will discuss about the organization of the science curriculum. The main purpose of every school is to make a child complete and a perfect man. This will help the child to be able to lead his life in a better way than he is today. Therefore, schooling is a very important human activity. In formal school education, curriculum is the major means to impart knowledge and skills. The major issue in the field of education today is organizing science curriculum in an effective manner. The approaches are also known as the subject approach or the traditional approach, as each subject is separately taught by the teacher in the area of particular subject question. So, science was traditionally taught as a subject with different compartments. An integrated approach allows learners to explore, gather, process, refine and present information about the topic they want to investigate without the constraints imposed by the tradition subject barriers. The investigators and inclusive nature of the learning activities cultivate curiosity, objectivity, open-mindedness, attitude and must be installed at a very young age. With continued experience of success, they became adapted to make wise decisions and independent problem solving. The students become responsible, resourceful and persistent in pursuing the lesson objectives and in the end their own goals in life is set. The curriculum set of science at primary level is different from the second level or the higher level. The various laws of integration are cross-disciplinary approach, multidisciplinary approach and interdisciplinary approach. This approach examines an issue typically relevant to one discipline through the lens of another discipline. This approach examines an issue from multiple perspectives without making a concerted effort to systematically integrate various disciplines. This approach examines an issue from multiple perspectives, leading to a systematic effort to integrate the alternative perspectives into a unfulfilled coherent framework of analysis. The integrated curriculum approach is successful in making students more aware of the content area connection, providing a learning environment, supporting academic and social needs, dissolving the boundaries among the disciplines, etc. The various characteristics of the integrated approach is wide conceptual knowledge. Integrated approach provides an opportunity to broader and wider conceptual knowledge, child-centered teaching, integration of skills and content. So the main pointers are that make sure that the problem to be solved fits their age, interest and abilities. If otherwise, they will be led to answer by guessing and their interest will be lost. They must be provided sufficient practice in sensing and stating the problem in a manner that is well understood. Otherwise, the following steps may not be automatically undertaken. The problems can be defined in the form of a question or a lesson objective. To ensure the correct sequencing of the activities, vigilance and tactful questioning can lead the students to the right direction without dictating on them what to do next. It is their insights on how to follow the step-by-step procedure and complete the investigations that is so much important. Now, we will discuss about the importance or the merits of the integrated approaches. The integrated approaches focuses on detailed conceptual understanding. This approach helps the learner to get detailed conceptual understanding of the content, choice-based section of the discipline or the subject. Integrated approach helps the student to select discipline subject according to their own creativity or the interest. This approach promotes modern methods of learning such as collaborating learning, cooperative learning, etc. Integrated approach helps in developing the self-concept and socialization. These approaches have realistic approach and realizations. It has also some limitations that integrated approach is time consuming as a single theme analysis is done with different discipline point of view. Integrated approach needs well-equipped and experts who are capable of using modern methods of teaching. If this approach is not handled carefully, then child may not get confused in various disciplines. Integrated approaches need expertise to select themes and organizations of various disciplines. So basically there is no any definition of the science which is universally accepted. In general, we can define science as an accumulated and systemized learning in general uses restricted to natural phenomena. Science is the activity where truthfulness is obviously an essential condition for success. Its success is measured by the truthfulness. Today, each and every occasion of life is influenced by science and become an integral part of our education system. The process emphasis on need, retirement, requirement, interest and capability of the students. The students are active participants who in their skills and abilities are developed. The climate in the classroom is conducive wherein flexibility is there. Teacher and student jointly explore the different aspects of problem. The role of the teacher in to create a problematic solution that have the material and resources available to the students and help them identify issues, state hypotheses, clarify and conclusions. The various methods for implementing the science education on the school basis in an effective way are laboratory method. This method is commonly thought as of the hands or the minds of approach to teach science, wherein students have the opportunity to gain some experience with phenomena associated with the cause of study. In this method, either students participate alone or in small groups. They produce or manipulate various variables that are under their exploration. The degree to which student has control over exploration can vary over a wide range. Here the students learn by actual doing rather than the observing the experiments. As young children do it themselves, the experience is impressed more firmly in their minds. Thus, this method is psychologically sound and it satisfies the natural urge for the activity. This method broadcasts interest of the students. They learn many virtues through the laboratory activities. The expertise in a laboratory is very rich in personal satisfaction as they gain it firsthand. The sense of excitement and challenge help them to achieve some tangible aim. The various principles of the laboratory methods are: it follows the principle of learning by doing. It follows psychological principle where students' age, thoughts and interest is taken into the consideration. The work should be pre-organized and pre-selected. Teachers must see that students are allowed to work independently without much interference. The teacher must ensure that apparatus and equipment should be checked bare hands. Teachers must see that students are able to follow instructions and record their observations correctly and properly. What are the various roles of the teachers in the laboratory method? Teachers must be a facilitator of the process of doing experiments by students. Teachers must check the apparatus previously so that it goes on smoothly. The practical work must be pre-organized and pre-selected. The skills of handling apparatus, drawing diagrams, careful observation, taking necessary preparation that must be developed among the students. The teacher must be that the student is doing experiments properly by the proper procedures. It has both the merits as well as demerits. The various merits of the laboratory methods are: this method allows child-centered approach. It makes students active and alert. It gives scope for learning by doing, and students do a lot by doing themselves. Different skills are developed. It paves way for exploration, experimentation and verification of scientific facts and principles. It inculcates the good virtues like honesty, truthfulness, dignity of labor, etc. It helps in developing the spirit of inquiring, and it helps in determining the higher order think capacity like reasoning, analyzing, synthesizing, etc. But when we talk about the limitations, it has also some disadvantages, like it is so expensive and uneconomical, it is time consuming, it expects a lot from the students, it does not guarantee that students should be equally sufficient in solving problems outside the laboratory. All students cannot be expected to be the skilled workers. Most of the students are either not ready to lack to ability to undertake their original work. There are some suggestions that must be implemented for the improvement. This method should not be considered independently but should form a part of the total science program. The practical work must be pre-planned. It is imperative that same individual laboratory work be different students. Instead of performing the experiments started in the book should be little modified for better results. Before experiments is performed, the purposes must be clarified to the students. The pointers are that make sure that the problem is to be solved fits their age, interest and abilities. If otherwise, they will be led to answer by guessing, and if their interest will be lost. They must be provided with sufficient practice in sensing and stating the problems in a manner that is well understood. Otherwise, the following steps cannot be automatically undertaken. The problem can be defined in the form of a question or a lesson objective. To ensure the correct sequencing of the activities, vigilance and tactful questioning can lead the students to the right direction without dictating on them what to do next. It is their insights on how to follow the step-by-step procedure and complete the investigation that is so important. All the tools and materials that will be needed, especially if an experiment will be performed, must be prepared and made accessible ahead of time in order to disrupt the procedure. Every student, if in groups in a class, must be actively involved from the planning stage to the formulation of the conclusion. The experience gained while undertaking the entire procedure will be lasting and meaningful. Future activities of the same nature will be less daunting and intimidating. Be ready with the alternatives or the steps or the directions in case of snags. Encourage them to suggest ways to might have tried and solutions arrived at successfully. An evaluation of the whole procedure, including the detailed steps, will be of great help in perfecting the methodology. Before the activity, evolve a criteria by involving the various students if needed. The various principles of observations are the principle of freedom, the principle of experience, principle of playway, the principle of individual effort, the principle of activity, the principle of logical thinking and the principle of purposefulness. These are the various merits of the observation method. The work of the teacher becomes interesting. The students see, think, give logic and thoughtful answers. The students learn the similarities and dissimilarities of the objects clearly and easily. The knowledge acquired is permanent. Students develop interest in the subject. The students become self-reliant, self-dependent and self-confident. The problems of the homework that is a burden for the students will be solved. The relationship between the teachers and tutor becomes intimate and healthy. But it has also some negativity or the negative aspects that we will be discussed. It is too much to expect children observe and retain knowledge. The students are in nature sometimes and their knowledge and thinking power is limited. It is not suitable for all the topics of science. This method is so much informative, so it is so much time consuming, and the practical part of it may be underdeveloped. It is not economical from the time point of view. This method also not economical as it requires a lot of preparation and maintenance from school point of view. So where the students can observe many things, but there are also some suggestions that must be implemented for improvement. The students must be given full freedom during the observation. Interested and curious students must be developed in prior to the making observation. The teacher must check and observe the things beforehand. The teachers must check, question and pinpoint students' observation as when required. The teachers must have the science corner wherein science observations and activity goes on continuously. A science bulletin board, museum shelf, aquaria, area must be there in the school where students develop a constant interest in the subject. A weather students must be installed where students observe the weather before the interest. So just we can say that all the tools and materials that will be needed, especially if an experiment will be performed, must be prepared and made accessible ahead of time in order to disrupt the procedure. Every student, if in groups in a class, must be actively involved from the planning stage to the formulation of the conclusion. The experience gained while undertaken, the entire process will be lasting and meaningful. Future activities of the same nature will be less daunting and intimidating. Be ready with the alternative steps or directions in case of snacks. Encourage them to suggest ways to might have tried and solutions arrived at successfully. An evaluation of the whole procedure, including the detailed steps, will be of great help in perfecting this methodology. Before the activity, evolve a criteria by involving the students if needed. Experimenting. It has so much effective in setting up an experiment is a learning activity that needs much care and readiness to undertake every step planned. From continued training, the students develop the much needed proficiency in finding answers, solutions when confronted with daily problems. Students learn by doing. They actively perform every step in the entire procedure, hence gain information through their personal experience. It guarantees the inculcation of higher order thinking skills such as interferential, crucial and creative thinking skills. Consistent practice in following methodological procedure is internalized and becomes part of the student's habitual response to instant inquiries made. The scientific attitudes of the creativity, objectivity, open-mindedness and originality are strengthened. Careful weighing of the evidences, suspended judgment, unbiased evaluation characterize their thinking and reacting. Completing an experiment can serve as an impelling force that sustains interest in similar pursuits. The various projects that must be implemented in the school are individual project, group project, producer projects, consumer projects, problem projects and drill projects. The various methods for considering a project are: first, a solution is provided to them. Then, choosing and purposing is done. After that, the planning of the project is done before their execution. And when the project is executed, it is evaluated and recorded. The various examples of the projects are arrangement of science fair, preparation of soaps, chalks, candles, inks, etc. for the enjoyment as well as interest of the students. Improvise the apparatus, beautifying the campus, establishing a science museum, establishing a physical science laboratory, and painting iron apparatus to prevent it from rusting. The various problem solving method are: science subject is one of the important subjects in school education. However, really the traditional teaching methods are challenged from their inability to foster critical thinking, holistic learning environment among the children. The science subject must develop science project skills where children observe, measure, classify, process information, interpret, think on solving problems, analyze, synchronize, and do practical work. The students thinking on problems and their understanding of the science behind it is based on a common sense. It does not start from only the textbook learning. Rather, it proceeds from experiencing to gradually forming concepts through book at a later stage. It is the process from practice to theory, not vice versa. Knowledge here is not a goal but a natural outcome of working on tasks. Students live in the real world and like to deal with concrete things where they can touch, feel, manipulate things, then they are used. The various merits of the problem solving are: in this method, students develop democratic feelings. In this method, they follow the principle of learning by doing. They learn to use old facts in new style and new references. They become capable to generalize. Students learn to find the solutions to their problems. But it is also some negative aspects. It is not economical from time and money point of view. There is always a doubt of drawing wrong conclusions. There is a short of talented teachers to produce this method. This is not suitable for all levels students. The various methods for the improvisation are: the time period must be fixed. The objectives should be fixed for a problem. The proper attention must be gained by teacher towards every student in every activities. All students should be given equal opportunity to forth their problems and ideas. As far as the process, the group formation should be encouraged and accelerated. Apart from improvement of teaching, the objective of this method should be developed as a part of the routine. As we have seen that all the pros and cons, but effectiveness of teaching depends upon the method of the teacher adopts. Group teaching does not happen overnight. For effective teaching, knowledge of different methods of teaching science is essential. The teacher, however, must be free to choose any different methods rather than the old traditional methods of teaching science. The teacher, however, must be free to demand the various things and necessities from the student. For many decades, which has not been practiced. Creating excitement of science, use of new and live methods must be practiced now. In lecture cum discussion method, the best suited for all lots of students, the basic purpose of this method is to diseliminate and encourage them to take part in the discussion. However, teacher has to set all students are given equal chance, or else this will lose their charm. In the laboratory method, the students control and observe the changes under investigation. Students learn by actual activities. Students learn many virtues through the laboratory activities. Observation method encourages students to develop a keen power of observation and acquiring of the knowledge. This aims at training students' mind to store suitable experiences for reasoning and establishing facts, observations of nature that is developed among them. It brought a sense of satisfaction and developed awareness among them. Projects methods that has certain steps to be followed by the students. This method is based on philosophy of practice. The sense practicism develops an attitude to undertake the activity and complete it scientifically. Problem solving method develop skill of finding solutions to the problem of their own. The students thinking on problem and their understanding of the science behind anything helps them to solve problems of their life objectives. Students live in their real world and like to deal with concrete things. So, the students must be involved in planning and in the actual implementation of the learning activity. This will arouse and sustain their interest in pursuing the activities to be completed and to the completion. It will likewise afford them exercise in making revision in their plans if needed. Practice it formulating hypotheses, interferences, tentative solution make them perspective, keen and incising thinkers and inquirers rather than passive acceptors and believers of the information. An experiment is aimed at testing the effect of a condition factors, also termed as the variable. It should emphasize and testing of one variable at one time in order to obtain reliable and accurate results. The rest of the factors are kept constant or controlled. Refrain from revealing the kind of evidences that must be gathered. Their ability to observe relevant information in data will be sharpened, resulting in credible and accurate conclusions. Every student must be an active participant in the activities, for it is on his or her direct experience that the effectiveness of the methodology is anchored. Orderly distribution and retrieval of laboratory tools and materials use will lessen wastage of time and effort. The tactful guidance from an observant teacher during the experiment will be urgently needed. Now we will talk the very important and decisive factor in making science interesting and effective, that is the lesson planning. Proper planning of the lessons in key to effective teaching. A daily lesson planning consists of teaching points, specifications to be achieved, organizations of an orderly sequence of the learning activities, actual test items to which pupils are to be exposed. Lesson planning is essential because effective learning takes place only if content in prescribed format is present. It is an integrated and correlated manner. The teacher who has planned his lesson wisely related to his topic, to his classroom without any anxiety, ready to embark with confidence upon a job he understands and prepared to carry into a workable conclusion. He has foreseen the difficulties that are likely to arise and prepare himself to deal with them. He knows the aim that lesson is intended to fulfill and must his own resources for the purpose. Because he is free to anxiety and he will be able to estimate the value of his work as lessons proceeds, equally aware of failure and success and prepared to learn from both. A daily lesson plan brought up the feelings of comfort and positive attitude among the teachers. This stage prepares the students for a new knowledge. This is important, but it must be brief. Every student must be an active participant in the activities for it in her direct experience that is effective of the methodology is anchored. The orderly distribution and retrieval of laboratory tools and materials used will lessen the wastage of time and effort. Tactful guidance from an observant during the experiment will be urgently needed. The various advantages are: it stimulates the teacher to ask questions. It provides freedom in teaching. It induces confidence among the teachers. Lesson planning makes the work regular, organized and systematic. It also saves a lot of time. The important objectives of teaching science is to arouse the students' attitudes and interest towards science. It is possible only when students do something themselves, use some improvised apparatus and make safe improvements in them. It is obvious that unless students perform practical activities, they will not understand the facts, laws and principles of science. Therefore, students must take interest and work according to their ability and interest these apparatus that is very useful for them. The various advantages of doing such an activity are: it stimulates the teacher to ask questions, it provides freedom in teaching, it induces confidence among teachers, it also saves time. Lastly, I would just like to sum up that we have discussed about the formulation, instruction, objectives, unit planning, lesson planning and improvisation of the various teaching aids in general science. As we know, the objectives of teaching science have been changing from time to time. The rapid progress of science and technology has changed the objectives of teaching. They impart fundamental knowledge, inculcate scientific attitudes, instructions, objectives, aims, and imparting training in scientific methods that is best reflected in a student. The unit planning involves certain steps as a unit in a block of related subject matter which are so organized to help divide the syllabus into small workable sections. For an effective and efficient teaching planned in essential, this helps teachers to gain confidence and work according to their will. The teaching becomes systematic and organized. The teacher proceeds in a well talked of the guideline. Last but not the least, I would just sum up that improvisation of teaching aids in general science, which is the need of time. In the view of the economic constraints, the developing countries cannot provide all the necessary equipment and materials of science. Many countries are now emphasizing on the development of low cost science materials using locally available resources. So, thank you all for joining the session. I hope you all will learn a lot from the session, that how to be practical and how to make the students about the various methodology and the techniques for teaching science, so that they may inculcate the positive vibes among them. Thank you so much.